Imagine a smuggler hosting an exhibition for their loot. Imagine people paying for tickets to see it. That's basically every Western museum for you. It's a shrine to the days of colonialism. The artifacts are not theirs, neither is the culture, but they still won't return it. Why? Because it's too late, they say. This cultural drain did not end with colonialism, by the way. Even today, artifacts are stolen from Asia and Africa. They're smuggled to Western museums, where unassuming visitors gape at the impossible beauty. Sometimes, in rare cases, these artifacts return home. That's what Australia's National Gallery is trying to do. They will return 14 artifacts to India. 6 of them are confirmed stolen or smuggled. The rest, no one knows. The artworks include sculptures, paintings, photographs, and a scroll. Together, their price tag is $2.2 million. Frankly, you can't put a value on stuff like this. Some of this dates back to the 12th century. That's proper vintage, and vintage is priceless. But how did these artifacts reach Australia? Courtesy one man. His name is Subhash Kapoor, a notorious trafficker from Manhattan. Many of these items were smuggled during colonial rule. They changed hands, they changed generations, ultimately falling into the hands of modern-day smugglers. In the last decade, Australia has returned some of these artifacts to India, like this one, the Dancing Shiva, 900 years old, worth at least $5 million. In 2014, Australia's then Prime Minister Tony Abbott handed it over to Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi. These rare returns get a lot of attention. The museums are applauded for their generosity. But remember, these works never belonged to them. They were stolen or smuggled. Returning them is basic decency, nothing to celebrate. This new thought process reflects in Indian policy. The government is aggressively pursuing stolen artifacts. In the last 5 years, 36 major antique items have been returned from foreign museums. I list out some of the big returns for you. Last year, the UK handed over 3 idols to India, all of them from the 15th century. They were stolen from a temple in Tamil Nadu. When the British collector realized this, he handed them over to the police. Another big cache was returned by the Americans. This was during Prime Minister Modi's visit to the US in 2016. Nearly 200 artifacts were returned. Their combined value was more than $100 million. Western countries specialized in looting cultural riches. All of them raced to drain their colonies, but one country took the cake. It also took idols, diamonds, pictures, and sculptures. And that country is Britain. British museums shamelessly parade their loot. What they stole from their colonies in Asia and Africa. Imagine the absurdity of the situation. Any crook who flaunts his loot gets arrested. But not Britain. Here it's part of their great imperial legacy. How many artifacts were looted for this legacy? Well, nobody knows. It's impossible to put a number on what Britain stole. Do they at least apologize for it? No, they don't. Instead, they have the audacity to organize a stolen goods tour. Decades after colonialism ended, the West is still profiting from it. Every big-ticket museum is guilty. The Louvre in Paris, the British Museum in London, the Metropolitan in New York. All of them have stolen artifacts. With that established, how do we get them back? The process must be diplomatic. But are these former colonial powers interested? Well, some of them are moving in the right direction. Last year, the French Parliament voted to return stolen artifacts to Benin and Senegal. It's a start. But what about the time and money lost? These artifacts were stolen 100 years ago. Throughout this time, the French government was making money off them. Who compensates for that? France won't say. As for Britain, things are a lot simpler. They have no plans to return any of the stolen works. And it's not surprising at all. After all, this is the same country whose queen wears a stolen diamond on her crown. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.